Oh, wait. All right. Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Holler Podcast. My name is Stephen Borbell, driver of the number 2 Ford Mustang Dark Horse for Next Level Motorsports. I am joined by two of my buddies here. Richard, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, but I'm not your buddy, pal. No,
That's crazy.
just kidding.
That is crazy.
Hey guys, Richard Wolfsford, driver of the '56 Limitless Chevy, distance-built Chevy for Limitless Esports. There we go. Got my words right that time. Carl, how are you doing on this fine Thursday evening?
I am doing all right, guys. It is Carl Pooler here, the driver of the number 71 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 for Limitless Esports. And here we are with the weekly BRB Hauler podcast. And Steven, we had a kind of almost anticlimactic race this last week.
Yeah, we did. And right before we get into that, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Obviously, Butt Kicker, Idealise, Ascendance Trucks, and obviously Sundance Pizza. Thank you all for your support and continued support of the BRB Racing League. But yeah, this past week we were at Kentucky for the Castle Quick Smart 250, 165 laps of a track that not many of us have driven on because it's not an active NASCAR track anymore. For unfortunate reasons, honestly, I liked when Cup was there, but it's a normal cookie cutter, 1.5 mile. It's similar to it's not. That's why I'm
No,
just
it's
wait
not.
on a second. The shape of it, top down view, it's a Kansas. It's a Las Vegas kind of cookie cutter 1.5 miles. However, it's a little bit flatter, and we've come to learn that it was pretty much one grooved, especially 1 and 2 was one grooved, And 3 and 4, you could try the outside a little bit and make it work if you had it right. But it was an interesting time, and the race kind of got strung out a little bit. It was kind of uneventful for most parts. Tuesday it was. Monday was a whole different story during our practice race. But yeah, we'll discuss that in a second. But on Tuesday, Gavin Rogers claimed his first victory of the season. Congratulations to Gavin. It was a dominating effort. I know at some point he had gotten damaged during the first or the second stage, I believe. I think it was the second stage. And he started the third stage in the back and made it all the way back up front with a hard charge. So a great run by him. Adam Buzzio came home second and myself third. So it kind of felt like last season for a little bit of how Next Level was doing things. And it was kind of refreshing to see. I'm a little bummed that Adam couldn't get the win that he so wanted, and he was probably a little bummed as well. But it's coming for him, so he has something to look forward to. Let me switch over. We have our race results.
Ooh, and our fancy new scoring.
Those race
pylon.
results are wrong.
They are slightly wrong, but they are what we have. That is correct. Carl Pooler came home fourth, and then Mason Hausman rounded out the top 5.
His forever placement.
His
Forever
placement.
fourth.
Hey, that's not a bad place to be, honestly. If we had the
Hashtag.
playoff format, you would make the Final Four.
Oh man, it's
Hold on.
It's
That's not
refreshing.
actually accurate.
No, but if he was fourth,
well, I mean, if I don't get wins, that's the thing about the playoff format is you need those wins.
you don't need
I mean,
him.
you could have 2 drivers get second and third every race, and Carl gets fourth every race. But if 2 drivers get a win, Carl's booted out.
Okay, basically what I'm saying is if you finish fourth in the standings, you are in the Final Four.
That's fair. That is fair.
All right, you took it way too far, Richard. I don't appreciate how we started this show already.
Hey, we gotta shoot facts, all right? We can't just shoot from the hip.
Sorry, I'm just trying
All
to
about
be
facts.
the statistician Carl Pooler.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think
Hey,
that's Carl's job.
Notepad over your
Stay in your lane, Richard. Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane, Richard.
That is something that Richard did not do this past week.
Oh, I definitely stayed in my lane. Someone else did not. Wait, you didn't specify which Richard. So you're right, about 50%.
Oh man.
do you want to give us a little insight to what happened there?
Nope, sure don't. It's in the holler. That's all that matters.
All right, good deal.
I have a feeling it'll come up in the meatball of the week, so we'll get there.
Okay. So, what do y'all want to take away from this race? Like I said, it got pretty strung out for all of it. I think we only had 1 caution for incident, if I am correct.
And it was
Yeah, only
right
one-
after the end of stage 2. Or I
Yeah.
should say during the beginning of stage 3.
Yeah, start of the final
Right.
stage we had it pretty much. But I don't know, like Gavin not really racing a lot with us this season. Just kind of stepping away, trying to work on his rating and everything like that. But him coming back and dominating that race like he did, it's good to see that he hasn't lost that momentum that he has, that skill. Like he's still got it. He's not gonna lose it. Like he's it's still Gavin. So I mean, it was good to see him come in and win. I mean, it was kind of sort of smally expected, but no, he did a good job. I mean, he did have an issue. I think he broke a toe link at one point in time, and in stage 2, I believe, because he was way back. Like I passed him for like 14th or something like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the heck happened to Gavin? And I guess he broke a toe link. So
Well, he was
dropped
quiet on the
all way
radio
back.
on it because I asked what happened during the run because he was falling back real quick, and I said, "What happened?" And he said, "It ran out of skill," and that was about it. And that was all he said for the rest of the stage. And I was like, "Uh-oh." So
But if it wasn't for Gavin, I would have called the race winner. By the way, Adam would second place.
well.
So,
Adam became in a very fortuitous position due to a little Mason Hausman mishap on pit road. Mason would have been right up there with him, if not well ahead of us, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
well, I mean, Mason did the same thing at Richmond, so poor Mason, man. He just small mistakes. Once he gets these mistakes like fixed, he's going to be up there pretty much every single race. It's just I don't know exactly what happened. He says that his tires unchecked by themselves, which I mean, I don't know. I can't see his screen or anything like that. So, but he went to pit. and it didn't give him tires, so he backed up in his pit stall to reset the pit board and pulled forward to take tires.
Yeah.
So he kind of cheated the system, but hey, if it works, it works.
You know,
I can't blame him.
I will give him I'll give him props though. That is a super heads up move to say, hey, I didn't get tires, I got fuel. Get out of the pit stall, come back into the pit stall, get 2 tires, and then come out. That was incredibly heads up, and his recovery up to 5th place was huge. So yes, he made a mistake, but to have that presence of mind to rectify the situation, not make it worse, because if he would have come out on old tires, it would have been over.
Yeah.
He would have been out of the top 10, period. So just him having that wherewithal. And I think this kind of accentuates the issue of pit road, where I think pit road is an underappreciated aspect of some of these races. You have a lot of these fast guys like Mason, like Adam. I think Steven yourself has had some speeding penalties on pit road, and it is so easy.
I miss my box
to make
a lot.
Okay, yeah, but it is so easy to make a mistake on pit road, and it can cost you so many spots or a race win. And so I think that's one thing that personally I like to pride myself on is pit road, especially as I don't have the speed as a lot of guys are, so I try to focus on other things where I think the faster drivers will make mistakes, have those issues. So I would really, really, really like to focus on pit road myself.
Yeah, and that brings up a great point. You and I were battling for 4th or 5th or whatever it was at the time, and when we came in to take those green flag stops in the 3rd stage, I gave up some time on entrance. You closed it really quick and then put the pressure on me immediately, so I was fumbling around with my mouse and making sure everything was set up right. I meant to take 2 tires, ended up taking 4. I missed my pit box, and before I knew it, you exited ahead of me. So I had my hands full of having to put in extra work on my tires to get around you to make sure I can keep you behind me. So, I mean, that's great to focus on pitting like that, of let the faster guys make those mistakes and capitalize on them. Take advantage where you can and beat them where they are not as good. So yeah, I was really concerned once you got out in front of me that I was not going to be able to get that spot back, because it was difficult. If you're running with a person, you're running with them almost the whole time. You can't really pull away, and it's really hard to make the pass too. So, no,
it was hard to pass Tuesday night. It was incredibly difficult to pass.
And I had found something out in that 3rd stage. It seems like that way on 1.5 miles of I don't understand how to drive the track or save the tires until I get to that 3rd stage, and it seems like to just magically click for me. And I had been running, it turned out to be a great defensive line of in 3 and 4 entering like up maybe 2 lanes and then basically letting the car rotate at the bottom and literally slamming the gas so hard that it turned the back end out. But it blocked the bottom lane, and it covered, and I got more speed coming off, so you couldn't get a run going to the other. Like, it just worked perfectly. But, no, yeah, I missed my box a lot this season, and I've made a lot of mistakes on pit road, unfortunately. Like, I think it was Atlanta, I got a speeding penalty. I think that was my first ever speeding on pit road penalty, though. But I also had a broken toe link, so I don't blame that on me.
No, I feel like I could have done better, because like you, in this 3rd stage, I finally figured out how to drive the track. I figured out how to save the tires a little bit and gain a little bit of speed. But I mean, I was at a disadvantage because I was preoccupied Monday evening, so I couldn't do the practice race for the practice. So I was kind of behind the 8 ball. I was only able to do a little bit of practice by myself on a test drive, but I didn't even have the correct time of day. I was driving it during the day, so that didn't help.
Same problem.
So I didn't know it was a nighttime race, or I just didn't, pay attention. So, but it was definitely a hard track to try and be fast and save tires. People like Johnny Wood, I just don't understand how those guys can do that. Like, I try to follow exactly what they do, and it doesn't pan out the exact same. Because it's like, if I slow down too much in the turn, they're still driving hard into it. Then I'm just like, how? I do that same thing, and I'm destroying my tires, and in 10 laps, like, you're still pulling away from me. Like, I don't get it. It's something that I still don't understand, and I still, like, people try to explain it to me, and I'm just like, I'm doing what you're saying, but it's not working. So, but it was still a really fun track. I I mean, I didn't qualify well. I had to start. I was second to last, I think. I think I qualified 15th of 16. So it was yeah. So I had to drive through.
You and Dakota Bleh.
Yeah, Dakota Bay. But I can tell you now, that track starting at the back was not fun. It was not fun at all because it was hard to pass. And the guys that I was trying to pass, I know I can pass. So I was driving the car even harder and still not passing them. And it was frustrating. It was really, really frustrating.
Well, that's one thing I noticed about Kentucky, and I really was focused on it when I was racing you, Steven, towards the end. There is, you couldn't drive hard. If you were trying to battle, if you were trying to make up time, that would actually hurt you. And I know, Steven, you mentioned that green flag stop in the third stage. I came out in front of you, you passed me, and so I was like, okay, if I can just keep Steven within striking range, maybe, just maybe, I can make the pass towards the end of the race and make a move. But in that effort, I actually just burned up just maybe a 1 or 2%, 5 degrees maybe of tire temperature, but it actually equated to about a second difference towards the end. And I think that's what hurt me, is I knew that I needed to keep you in striking range, and I was just pushing that much harder, but that's what hurt me in the end. So that Kentucky was a very curious track. I want to say it was kind of like a reverse Texas with the way it was, but it was definitely an interesting experience. Although I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I'd mind going again. I actually had a good time.
I mean, from a racer standpoint, like, it isn't too technical, but it's technical enough to where it's engaging, and making you think about each corner differently. So you're constantly focused and satisfied in a way. But from a viewership standpoint, I mean, it got super spread out to a point where I didn't expect it to be. I really thought, because there was a time, I think it was in the beginning of the third stage, where the top 4, top 5, even, like, we were stuck together for a while. And I was hoping it would stay that way, but unfortunately tires start wearing off. And I guess that's normal at 1.5 miles. But couple that in with limited passing opportunities also, I think, prevent it from being a good show for a viewer per se. That doesn't mean it's not on the table for schedule in the future. It's a good track, but there are a lot of good tracks that are similar to it, I think.
I think Vegas provides better racing than Kentucky.
I would agree. And we are
Vegas
at Vegas
is still
this
fun,
season.
though.
Vegas is a great track.
I even think Chicagoland provides better racing than Kentucky. Like, Chicagoland is multi-groove racing.
No, Chicagoland also has that banking on 1 and 2, and that's the thing, is 1 and 2 in Kentucky was banked like a normal 1.5 miles, where 3 and 4 was much flatter, much more precise. If you missed your braking point, or if you missed your turn-in point, if you didn't hook the inside or get your line the way you wanted to, you were losing it just an absolute ton of time. And I know that by experience. So it was definitely one of those where you would go into the thought, oh, it's just 1.5 miles, and then you get in there and you underestimate that track, and it required some finesse, and it was really weird how the track developed throughout the race as it rubbered in. Steven, you mentioned yourself, you could go up a lane in 3 and 4, and I saw you doing that towards the end of the race. I was like, maybe I could do that, and I tried it a couple times, and I just lost more speed than I gained. So that line that worked for you didn't work for me. And so it's one of those tracks that it takes a little bit to know.
Yeah, and that was the only place I could actually pass all night, was coming out of 4 on the high side. I struggled real mightily in 1 and 2. I still couldn't figure that out through the end. But thankfully, I think because it wasn't as technical and it was just basically 1 lane, it didn't hurt me as much time-wise. And figuring out 3 and 4, it didn't seem like most people wanted to run the high side, so if people aren't running it, it usually allows opportunities to make passes. So try to learn something that other people aren't running, and it can come out to your benefit. But it was a good time. Other than that, I'm just going to read off the rest of the top 10 and give a shout out to anyone that we feel fit. So Destin Stallings coming home in 6th place. Jared Hughes in 7th. Johnny Wood Jr., your pole sitter, comes home in 8th. Evan Patinko 9th, and Richard Wolsifer rounds out the top 10 in 10th. Another thing I just wanted to point out real quick, the lap times did slow down throughout the night. and that is also something we saw in the practice race on Monday. I don't know why that was, but it just happened to be like that. Just thought it was interesting to point out. But any shout outs you want to give out to any of the drivers?
I want to
Tyler. Do you have a Tyler Reddick shirt on?
I do have a Tyler Reddick shirt on.
Okay, because I saw a quick glimpse of it and I thought it said Tyler Redneck at first. I'm like, what?
I really
it was
dig
Tyler Redneck.
It was the Jay Balvin paint scheme he ran at Bristol last season.
Oh, okay.
So I was just like, I gotta have it.
All right, Carl. Sorry to interrupt you, man.
No, you're fine. I do want to give a shout out though to Dakota Bly. I hope he's listening. He actually did really well. He tried to use some strategy. He led 5 laps, it looks like, and I want to say that's one of the first times I think he's actually led. So even though it was on strategy, everyone was during that green flag pit stop in cycle. But sometimes that pit road was a little tricky, honestly. So I was actually expecting during green flag stops there to at least one person maybe mess it up, possibly cause a yellow. And I know that is exactly what Dakota was banking on. And I got to give him props because he was definitely trying to use the strategy to get some track position. So Dakota, good job on 5 laps sled. Keep it up, buddy. I like seeing you out there.
Yeah, that was he definitely was working for the strategy there. I mean, I was very shocked there wasn't more cautions. I mean, I'm glad there's not to an extent because it just shows that our drivers are getting a little more aware of things. Or iRacing's just not throwing cautions when they should. Not mentioning any moments. But
yet.
But no, it was really interesting to see. He drove that car pretty much up into E is what it was, is what it seemed like. So but yeah, he was definitely banking on a caution to come out at some point in time. And I mean, I think he just knew. He's like, I'm in the back anyway, so just run it out till it's dry, and if a caution comes out, sweet. If not, well, we tried. So, but still, man, you led some laps. That's great. That's great to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just want to quickly shout out Evan Patinko. He had a top 5 fastest lap, I know, and I was racing a lot with him during the early stage 1 and stage 2, and I will say it was one of the times this season that he kind of looked like himself from last season. He had top end speed. He had the ability to get there. He might not have gotten the finish he wanted at 9th. It's not a bad finish by any means, but by the speed he had early on, I was strongly expecting a top 5 out of him. But the fact that he showed that speed this week, and I hadn't seen it in a minute from him, just big shout out to him. It was a good run, and keep it up.
On the topic of Evan Patinko, I'm going to call him the BRB Ryan Newman. He is so incredibly hard to pass, and he will block and fight you for every position. I know there was a couple times I was fighting him. I'm like, dude, Evan, you're in my way. I feel like I'm faster, but he would not give it to you. He would block you all the way down the back stretch. And of course, during the race, it's super frustrating, but you have a couple days removed from that, and it's just like, I can't blame him for it because spots count so much. Even in the stages, they count so much. So,
Especially.
Evan, yeah, definitely. So, Evan, I'm going to call you Ryan Newman from now on because you are just so damn hard to pass.
I don't know. Maybe he doesn't like you. He lets me pass pretty easily sometimes.
Hey, you know what? I can't blame him there either. So, it is what it
Carl's
is.
just bad at passing people.
Hey, you know what? I am tied with Adam Buzzio with 132 quality passes. That is the most in the league.
What is defined as a quality pass? I'd love to know where they get that stat.
That is a good question. We'll have to submit an email ticket to Sim Racer Hub to see what that means.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions actually about some of their stats and what their formula is to get to that, but don't know.
But yeah, dude, Evan Patinko, he had a hell of a good race. It's good to see him finally getting back in his stride. That was great to see. Though I was chasing him down those last 10 laps. I think I was like 2 seconds behind him with 10 laps to go or something like that. And when we crossed the line, I was trying to get to that 9th position. I was, I think, less than 2/10 behind him. And I was like, dang it, one more lap is all I needed.
Mm-hmm.
So
it looks like you're about a half second at the line.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
There's no way.
He was 22 3/4 exactly. So 22.750 interval behind the leader. You were 23.222.
Huh. Oh, well, whatever. I was 2/10 at one point in time. I know that for a fact. Because I knew I just needed one more lap to get him. But no, he drove a hell of a race. And I think it was racing around him at one point in time. And yeah, like Carl, he's definitely really hard to pass. My brick wall that was hard to pass was Matt Erickson. Oh my God. Oh, he was the most frustrating person to drive around. I was so irritated for like the first half of the race because he was driving on the outside of the turns. And like I had the speed going into the turns, but then he had the run coming off. And I'm like, come on, just let me follow you. I know I'm faster. Come on. Oh man, but he was my kryptonite of trying to get around. So, but he put up a good fight. I did eventually get around him. So it just took like way too many laps on what I wanted to do.
You know, and it's funny you mentioned Ericsson, Richard, because Ericsson is another name that keeps popping up these last 2 or 3 weeks. He's finding his rhythm, he's finding a groove, and he's slowly showing those results. He's getting up there. Yes, he finished outside the top 10, but he was 11th. He qualified 8th. So he's getting there. He's getting to that point where he's getting comfortable. And I think it showed Tuesday night. He's getting comfortable and he's finding his own line, finding his own rhythm. So Ericsson, yeah, you may upset Richard, but you seem to be finding a rhythm on your own. So keep it up.
Oh, he was mild compared to other points in the race. So.
Love it. Love it.
One last thing before we get into the meatball of the week that I wanted to point out, and I found interesting that you got me interested in looking through some of these stats. So far this season, we've raced 4 mile-and-a-half tracks, 3 mile-and-a-half tracks. Yes, Atlanta, Kentucky, and Texas. Kentucky had the most lead changes out of those 3. Surprisingly, right? I don't know. I just found that interesting. I felt like it was the most difficult to pass on, but it had the most lead changes total.
I think it also led to how Kentucky was racing. It also led to a little bit of strategy. There was a lot of contemplation. When should I pit? Should I short pit? Should I do the long run? There was a lot of, and I think it also kind of depended on where you were in the field. If you were around a couple of drivers, you kind of had to flip a coin to where, okay, if I short pit now and maybe give up this track position now, I can gain it later. But at the same time, if you have those cars in your view, if you're in that draft and you're within that striking distance, you also want to run it and see if you can't make that pass on the track, gain that position, and maybe it'll help you during the green flag cycle. But also, it's interesting. We've run 3. You said Texas, which was Legacy.
Yep.
Atlanta, another Legacy track.
Yep.
And then Kentucky, which the Cup Series doesn't run right now.
Technically Legacy.
So it's like a Legacy. It's very interesting right now. Our 3 cookie cutter tracks have been something not a lot of people have driven. So it's been we talked about it last season, the diversity of the schedule, and we're just rolling that into this season. It's not something that anyone's used to. So I think that led to that as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wish we saw that when planning out the schedule. But that's when we were missing our statistician.
It was a happy accident is what that was.
It was a happy accident. But I guess moving on to our meatball of the week from Kentucky of the Castle Smart Alarm 250. Quassel. Richard, you seem eager to jump on this one this week. So I'm just going to hand it off to you. Who do you got for your meatball of the week?
Another Richard Smith. It made me so mad when he spins me out coming out of turn 4, and that's when I was mad that the caution didn't come out because I was sideways on the track, so that was a little irritating. But and then when I called him out for it because he kept bumping me also for the past like 5 laps before that, he kept hitting my rear end for no doggone reason at all. Like I'm not necessarily driving faster than him, but like he's driving to burn his stuff up, and it's not like I was blocking him. Maybe once I did, because I wasn't gonna let him take it 3 wide. But just coming out of 4, I mean, I'm all the way up against the wall, and he's still driving up and just basically cleans me out. And then I call it out over the radio, and he says that I turned across his nose. Went back and watched the replay, even got a clip of it, and I was like, nah, dude, that was you 100%. And that I'm not gonna say it ruined a good run for me, but I think I could have finished higher than 10th if it wasn't for that. So Richard Smith gets my meatball for the week.
Carl, who are you rocking with this week for your meatball?
I am calling out Mason Houseman, and not because of his pit road issue.
Okay.
This is unrelated. Start of the second stage, and I can understand the strategy. He wanted to save tires. We've mentioned tires at this track. It was important, and I understood it. The problem is Mason has that speed to where yes, he can save tires and then gain that time back. Myself, on the other hand, does not have that ability, does not have that speed, and he was right in front of me. And here I am, I'm racing you, Steven, I'm racing Evan Patinko, I'm racing Dustin Stallings, I'm trying to get around all these guys, and if I'd make a pass, I'd lose 2 spots because somehow I would end up behind Mason trying to save. And by the time he decided, okay, I've saved enough, it's time to go, I already lost all my spots, already lost all my positions, and in fact, I actually kind of snapped at that point, and it was because Richard was trying to pass me, and I was fighting off Dustin, and I snapped at Richard, and I later did apologize, but I'm like, Mason, I need you to go. I'm losing spots because of you. I need you to go because I'm expecting Mason to have that speed. And I was like, okay, I'm going to follow Mason. And then I couldn't follow Mason because he was slowing up. But if I went to the outside, I wasn't used to that line. I couldn't find the run off the corner. So either way, I was losing spots. So Mason gets my meatball of the week just for impeding my personal progress.
And
Yeah, I mean, it was funny when I was trying to pass Carl, and he got so pissed at me, and I even said sorry as I pulled into the turn. Like before I even made the move, I was like, "Sorry, Carl, but like it's Kentucky, you have to make a move when you see it." And I had the run, so I was like, "I'm going." He's so pissed. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Sorry, man." The run
and it
was
was
there. The
frustrating
option was
being
there.
behind
Like I
Mason.
had to.
Like he
was.
was much slower than the lead pack, and then he was just keeping us behind him because it felt like when I got to his outside at times, and then he's like, "All right, I can go full throttle here and try to keep them back and make them burn their stuff, but I can keep them behind me." And it's like, oh my goodness, why are we doing this for like 5th or 6th like right now? Like
Exactly.
it's not worth
So
it.
frustrating.
But yeah, that's oof. This past week I have to go with Brendan Maddox as my meatball of the week, a reigning meatball of the week leader. So on Monday we had our practice race, and there's a certain situation on lap 25 of 100 of the practice race where I was on his outside, and he plowed up into me coming out of the corner, slammed me in the wall, broke a toe link, and then my engine blew up soon after because of it as well. So I guess it had some front end damage too. But came on the radio and basically asked what it was about. Nothing came up about it, and then it got brought up that why should he let off the throttle kind of thing coming out of 4 on the bottom line, which I just didn't agree with. And I mean, we've talked about it, him and I, and we got to a good place about it, but I just don't want people racing me like that with no respect. If you did it and you're on the bottom and you got into me, own up to it. I'll own up to it when I'm in the similar situation. Richie, why are you looking around?
No reason.
Did I get into you?
My door might have met your door quite a few times this season already.
Oh, yeah, but we give like little light taps every once in a while in a corner here and there. That's like nothing. This was like
No, I was
this
just
was like an
joking, like-
earthquake into the wall kind of hit.
Yeah, that was violent. Ours are just kind of like
They're
I
love
overshot
taps.
the turn.
Yeah.
I was like, sorry, Steven.
I think there was one time, very recently, I think it was to Carl. Maybe it was even during the race. It was either during the race or the practice race. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Carl. Like, I knew once we sent it in the corner, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like that kind of stuff happens. And at the end of the day, like the person on the bottom, I know when it's us in those situations, we're trying to avoid maximum impact. We are probably already past the point of where we're going to make contact and it's going to be a little light bump, but I'm not slamming right up into you and be like, oh, sorry.
So, you know, I'm gonna put my 2 cents in because I kind of stayed out of the whole conversation. I was, again, I was right behind you and Brendan when it
Mm.
happened. I feel like I have this really bad luck and bad habit because I was behind Adam and Dustin in New Hampshire when that incident happened. So I'm getting these first row seats, and I don't have a horse in the race. Okay, and yes, I do agree that I think Brendan was wrong. But I think this is an important part of the league is in its entirety. It was a practice race on Monday. No points, so we're just trying to get a feel of the track. But that is the passion everyone has. I I love the passion. Both you and Brendan. I was in bed. I was letting everything go. I had so much to catch up on Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Yes, you
I-
did.
it was like a newspaper in the Tuesday morning newspaper, just reading through it. But the passion both of you had, I absolutely love it. It is. We like to come into this at the end of our days. We're not pros, but we do this because we love it. And one person drives one way, the other person drives another. You guys have different opinions,
Someone's
but
right,
the
someone's
passion,
wrong.
exactly. I mean, and it's all subjective, okay, in each other's minds, but the passion, the absolute passion everyone has for this hobby, for this league itself, I think it's good. It can be built off of. We learned something, and granted, Steven, you mentioned yourself you didn't learn a lot because you were driving with the damaged car almost all Monday night, but I think everyone was going into Tuesday nights. Everyone knew it because I mean the hauler had 300 plus messages within like 2 hours. It was nuts. But everyone was really nervous about going into Tuesday night, and then we ended it with one caution for incident.
Yeah.
That was just like a tale of two races. It was insane, but the passion I love, and I hope we don't have something like that again, but at the same time I want to hold that passion, hold that fire, and if something gets stirred up I want to see it. So I love it.
I mean,
but
I think
that's
things
just
like
my
that-
opinion from a third party.
No, yeah, and things like that are good every once in a while, as long as it doesn't turn into an ugly mess. I would say it didn't quite get to there. It was getting close, but
Definitely wasn't very close.
it didn't go overboard in my opinion. Throughout the whole thing from either side, things were said both ways, and I don't know exactly how Brendan feels on certain things, but I wasn't offended by anything like personally attacked or offended by anything said. So again, I don't think that we went overboard there. If things are getting personal, that's something else. But on the racetrack or in race incidents, anything like that, I want us to be passionate about it. And the hauler is there for us to talk about, and the hauler podcast is here for us to talk about those things that go on in the hauler. Like that's kind of what we are going on, and we haven't had a whole bunch of drama here lately. So kind of glad to stir up some drama, but no. And I think karma ended up getting justified there Tuesday. Brendan had a little slip up in front of me, got loose, and I had no time to react, and just gave him a little tap on the rear end and sent him spinning inside. Again, like not intentional, but it just kind of happened that way. So I think the race gods were looking at that one in my favor. But
Yeah, I mean, like Monday, I was at home chilling, or I was here at home chilling on the couch. I was watching a movie with my daughter. We were supposed to do like a Star Wars movie night, but due to how late we had to start a movie, we ended up watching Ghostbusters Afterlife. But sitting here watching the movie, and the movie's basically almost done, and my notifications start going off, and like, I see, oh, the hauler. I'm like, why is the hauler being chat in? And then I see a certain emoji pop up, tweet, and a very aggressive wording after that. I'm just like, bro, it's a practice race. What the heck happened? Like, so I messaged Carl like 4 times, like, what happened? Tell me. So when he told me kind of the general gist of it, that's when I joined the chat. And before I even said anything, because I was like, bro, this is like, I just wanted to sit there and say, dude, it's a practice race. Why are we getting so bent out of shape over a practice race? And I watched, Steven, he showed me what was going on in that wreck. And, I mean, I straight up even told Steven, like, the stuff that happened after the wreck. I'm like, Probably not the smartest move, even though it is a practice race.
That's where the
but
passion overflowed.
That's just pouring a can of gasoline, just throwing it onto the fire. Like, not even pouring, you just threw it. Like,
Yeah.
So, but like that incident, I mean, there's so many things that could have happened differently. I mean, we did come to a conclusion. Everybody, kind of said their piece and everything, and everybody made up and made their apologies, and we moved on. We had a heck of a race on Tuesday. So, I mean, even though the hauler did kind of blow up Tuesday night also.
Well, and I think personally, I had reached my limit this season with being ran a certain way. I've been involved in incidents almost every race that has hindered my ability to be in the points where I want to be, and not getting the results I am accustomed to or am expecting, I guess, out of myself. So that was my boiling point, and that's what sent me over. And I knew I had to make a statement basically to like, hey, I'm not taking this anymore, like from anybody. Like, if you do this to me, you're going to end up just like Brendan was in that practice race kind of deal. So, yeah, did I go overboard? For sure. But I feel like it had to be made. And I'm sorry to use Brendan as a statement.
And it kind of goes into the standings, the chase standings. Right now, between 4th and 7th or 8th, it's super tight. There's like 11 points separating because Steven, you and I are tied for 4th there with 48 points. Go down to 11 points down. There's Richard in 7th, and then Jared is just one down, give it another 7 points. So you have 18 points separating 5 drivers. We're all just fighting for every point, for every spot that we can. And we're getting to that crunch time. We have what? 4, 5 races until the chase?
6.
And with those 6 races, we have Indianapolis, we have Eldora, we have Iowa, we have so many crazy races going on in the next couple of weeks that everyone's trying to find a footing. Because we have Iowa next week, we have Indianapolis, Eldora, Chicagoland, and Bristol.
And Auto Club.
It's Bristol, baby.
It's Bristol,
Look at that. And then Auto Club. So there is just a wild diversity of tracks that everyone is trying to claw because personally, I know Indianapolis, I'm not going to do well. I do not do well at Indianapolis in the Cup cars. The dirt race, I'm going to struggle there too.
Yeah.
So I know, Richard, you won Eldora last week, so I know you have Eldora circled there in a couple of weeks for yourself. All these drivers are joshing for position, just trying to get whatever they can while they can. And it's, again, that passion that we want to do the best that we can for ourselves. And it's, I think we might have just hit the tip of the iceberg, but we'll have to see later on. Oh, I think Steven froze.
Nope.
No, I'm here. I thought Richard
man,
wanted to say something. Sorry.
He was so still, Steven. Sorry, I thought you froze.
That's my part-time job, is being a statue in town. But
I can't blame you.
Our schedule diversity is something else, and I think we talked last week about starting to get into a rhythm of these tracks, but we're really not going to start to get into a rhythm until Chicagoland. I feel like of standard tracks because we have Iowa this week. Iowa's an interesting short track. Eldora Indy the following week. Not many people have raced Indy, especially in the next gen car. I know y'all have a little bit more experience in Indy recently, but that's a curveball for a lot of people. And then Eldora, a dirt race, like that adds a lot of variety just in those 3 weeks. But then we get into the more standard Chicagoland, Bristol, Auto Club, and then the playoffs the chase starts in Vegas. So hopefully these next 3 weeks can go by pretty quick. Personally, and then we can get to a normal NASCAR schedule, and I'll be happy with. But sure will be very interesting.
Let's not also overlook the BRB bonus brawl race coming up next week at Iowa. Then we have it again at Chicagoland. So we have a lot going on. We have a lot of storylines and more drama because I may not be in contention for the championship, but I definitely want to go for the lead since I still have that lead from Texas for the brawl race. So I know Iowa and Chicagoland are definitely circled for me.
Yeah, and anything can happen in those 3 race span for the brawl. That's the beauty of it, and that's why I'm glad that we're doing something like it. And you're not out of the race for the championship, the season championship. I mean, you're sitting 4th, but you also have something else to go for right now and make you push even harder, which is really cool. Do either of y'all have the standings for the BRB bonus brawl currently?
I actually have them pulled up right now because I'm typing it.
Please feel free to share.
I'm going to. So Carl Pooler actually leads the bonus brawl right now. So that's what his main focus is. He's leading with the 10 points. Brendan Maddox actually in 2nd with 9. Johnny Wood Jr. in 8th. Jared Hughes in 7th. So I mean, those 4 drivers right there, where they might be in those top 4 or 5 of the regular season points, they had a very strong showing in that first race. So, great to see that. Adam Buzzio with 6 points. Dustin Stallings with 5. Matthew Corder 4. Steven Borbell, you were there with 3 points. Richard Smith with 2, and Evan Patinko with 1. And then Matt Erickson, myself, William Maddox, Patrick Hernandez, Rusty Sanchez, and Chad Bean all sitting with the donut right now because we do only award out the top 10 finishers of the bonus brawl. So those final 6 right there, Matt, me, William, Patrick, Rusty, and Chad, we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
A lot of work. I mean, it's going to be hard to even be considered in that final race to, for that nice big check that we got. I think it's what, $200 now?
It's getting pretty close to it. I think it's a little under that, but pretty darn close.
I think we're it looks like around $160 right now. So that is a winner take all in season tournament. So right now, Carl sitting there with a pretty 10 points up top. So Carl, how do you feel about that with a baby on the way?
I like it, but I'm definitely not comfortable because I can't recall if I've actually raced Iowa. So that's coming up, and I know I need to perform well there if I want to continue my streak. Now, Chicagoland, as crazy as it sounds, is one of my more favorite tracks. I absolutely love Chicagoland. I typically perform well there. I have decent speed. And in fact, that's kind of my only non-super speedway win in the service period. I think I won a truck race there a while back, and I won it by a substantial amount. So I really like it. I am comfortable with Chicagoland, but I have to tackle Iowa first. So I'm definitely going to try and put in some extra laps this next couple of days.
Very nice.
What was that?
Yeah, it's
Very
very
nice.
Carl, Richard.
4 laps to go. 4 laps to go. 4 laps to go. We still got 4 laps to go. 3 laps to go.
or Steven Stein over there.
Jared, Steven, Gavin.
Good job.
Very good. Very nice. Other exciting news. We do have a new broadcast joining us starting in 3 weeks from now. At
Eldora.
Eldora,
So, yeah.
yes. Thank you. It's Pit Stop TV, if I believe correct.
Yes, Pit Stop TV.
Pit Stop TV. We'll be updating on social media and all other platforms. More information, and also for our drivers, information will be available in the Discord sometime soon. It already is, but we'll have more coming soon. Yeah, I don't know where to go from that. Let's go into next week. So next week we were talking about Iowa. It's another track not many people have run a whole bunch because it is a new NASCAR Cup. It's a new Cup track. I believe Xfinity and Trucks have run there for several years. No?
I know it's been one of those that kind of comes and goes.
Right.
I want to say that the Trucks and Xfinity either swap or they may have done a double header during those times. But just recently, just 2 or 3 weeks ago, that our IRL partners there at the NASCAR
It's the
have
eyes
run
on
it
Indy
as
cars,
well.
not IRL.
You know what? It's in real life. What you gonna do? What are you gonna do? But it's one of those tracks.
Oh, I
that,
thought you were talking about the Indy Racing League. I was
no,
like,
no,
it's
no,
eyes on Indy
no.
Racing.
In
Man, get
real
it right.
life.
Uh,
But no, but it's
I'm
definitely
an
one of
idiot.
those another one of those tracks, like Legacy Texas, Legacy Atlanta, Kentucky. The Cup cars don't typically run there, so it's another one of those tracks where virtually no one has a lot of experience. So it's going to be a expansive curve on how the drivers learn to drive it. It's going to be a short track. I know in real life they tried to repave the inside lane. I don't think that has transferred over to the surface yet. So we won't see what we saw a couple weeks ago on the NASCAR Cup Series.
that is correct. They have not rescanned the track yet since it is still a new repave. And it is the Steelmaster 200 at Iowa for 200 laps. Stages being lap 50, lap 100, and then the last lap on lap 200. Yeah, from what I remember, I think we ran there season 3 of our previous league, maybe season 2. For some reason, on all I remember is that it was very, very loose, and tires wore really, really quick. I don't remember anything else other than it kind of felt like Richmond, and like a North Wilkesboro kind of feel to it too. So gonna have to spend a lot of time and get reacclimated to it. And short tracks are not my kind of favorite thing, anyways. So I'm expecting a lot of mayhem.
Well, we unfortunately probably remember how Richmond went earlier this year. But
do we?
it's funny. 7/8 of a mile. It's D-shaped ovals patterned after Richmond International Raceway. So it's definitely one of those tracks where it's similar, but it's different. So, oh man, I really hope that we have a good race there. I guess I really hope I have a good race there. But for overall, it's going to be one of those tracks where it's going to take a lot of practice. We're going to have to get brake biases down, master cylinders down, get your braking points, get your turn-in points. Obviously, the inside line is going to be critical because it's going to be very difficult to pass on the outside unless you are on a different strategy, having to retire. So it's another wild card race. Welcome to the BRB Cup Series.
Yeah. And I went back and I did see that we have run this track before, and I thought Richard was there, but I guess Richard wasn't at that race because I was going to point out where Richard finished. But it doesn't look like Adam was in this race either. The only one I'm familiar with, Jamie and Gavin have run this race. And Carl, you were in this.
Oh,
What
was
date
this
was
in
that?
Wicked Season 2?
Season 3. The date is September 6, 2023, so almost a full year ago.
I was in Orlando at Universal Studios.
There you go.
Oh,
And,
how did I do?
Carl ended up finishing 7th. Yep,
It's not fourth. So.
you finished 7th. Plord finished 5th. I finished 4th, and Gavin finished 3rd.
Ooh, so I
James
do have
Crawford won.
experience. I have a feeling the muscle memory kick in after about 10 or 15 laps, I hope.
Yeah, you would hope. But I think a lot of things have changed on this car since then, too.
Oh,
Blaze
man,
Coffee
Arrow.
won too.
Say that again.
Blaze Coffee won too.
Close. You got half of it right. Blaze Crawford, Ryan Thomas, 1-2.
Ryan Thomas.
Oh, I
That's a
forgot
name
about
I
Ryan
don't know.
Thomas.
Yep. And Gavin Rogers with the fastest lap said, "No one is surprised."
Ooh, that'll be good then. So maybe I have a shot at the top 5.
Yeah,
I'll take
I mean,
it.
your
I'll make sure you
fastest
don't.
lap was right up there with the leader, so you never know.
Ooh.
But yeah, I really don't have too much to give feedback on for that track, just because I'm really, again, like, it's another one that we haven't attended to in a while, like it's or we don't have a lot of experience with. So
I have a feeling because when we saw the NASCAR guys race there, it was definitely bumpy going into the corners. So I have a feeling that we're gonna have to deal with that as well. It's not as smooth as Richmond, so that's gonna add another level of complexity as we get through the race. If it rubbers up, who knows what could happen?
yeah, and that last time we raced there were 11 cautions with 1 stage break, so that means 10 cautions for incident. So that is something to remember. And
That's
I do. It
disgusting.
depends because does Iowa have lights?
Yes, I think it does actually.
I think we ran it as a day race that last time, and that caused extra mayhem for no reason.
Rev
And
would
also
know.
there
Rev
was
said
no
too many.
there was yeah, there was no I don't think there was a setup for Iowa either at the time. I would hope that they have a setup for Iowa by now. I don't know.
They do have night lighting, so we will be able to run as late as we need to.
I would assume they. I would
Yes.
assume they have a setup. I mean, NIS runs the exact schedule, so
Exactly. So I would hope by
Yeah.
now that they have that in place. But
Yeah.
yeah, I know that was a whole nother thing is that we had a custom setup for that thing. So that might not even feel anything of the same for all we know.
I think it's going to be way more loose because apparently that's the whole fixed setups nowadays.
Is that what it is? I always hear about people complaining about them being tight.
Oh, they were
they used
complaining
to be
last
really
year about tight. This
Yeah,
year they
last
have
year
been
was
loose as
tight.
all get out.
Huh.
I remember running NIS last year, and that's all I could think of is it's too tight, it's too tight. And I learned to save. I learned
Yeah.
to save tires on a tight track. Now it's loose, and I have to relearn everything. So
Well, it's
there's
good. You
that.
get both sides.
Exactly.
But,
And Rev says there is a setup, so we should be
Yes,
good to go
awesome.
come next week.
a good deal. I'm glad that we. I made sure to do all my due diligence when getting ready for this race this week, and just thinking about the setup now instead of thinking about it weeks ago or months ago, even when setting up the schedule. So that's why we had this podcast, really, just to make sure we have everything in line for next week. But
We're like the last line of
terrible leading
defense.
strategy.
it's a terrible strategy, but it works.
Better late than never, right?
Amen.
Yeah, it works.
That's all it needs to do is work. But yeah, that's Iowa, land of the corn, home of the brave. What is Richard doing?
I like corn. Oh, it's probably his cat.
Well,
Yep, it's
in,
Hagrid.
It's hackers.
in NASCAR news, the big story coming out today. Richard, would you like to share it?
Corey LaJoie will not be returning to Spire Motorsports in 2025.
And I think that's a big shocker because recently, once they was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, they basically had said like Corey LaJoie is the plan for the 7 car next year. No.
So what? So here's the question: is if that was the plan, all of a sudden it changed.
Right.
Was the incident with Kyle Busch at Pocono a deciding factor? And how not only what he did, but how he handled the situation afterwards.
I think it was part of it, and I think it brought more attention to him, which then opened up
Not
the
good
lens. Yeah, exactly. It opened up the lens to be like, you know what? Carson has been really excelling this year, and similar, if not the exact same equipment. Corey, you have not been holding up your end of the bargain kind of situation. Like, where are your top tens? Like, he doesn't have a top 10 in a non-drafting track, correct?
I will say this about Hocevar. Carson Hocevar, it's his rookie year, and yes, he has definitely improved in his finishing and running position. But he is not doing smart on-track decisions, and everybody doesn't like it. He is kind of being treated like Danica Patrick on the track right now. Like, stay the heck away from him. Like,
Yeah, I know people like that.
But yeah, I think it's an interesting situation because Carson definitely has a lot of drivers angry at him for various incidents through various races. So I think it's a double-edged sword. You have Corey LaJoie, who's actually has experience in the series for quite a while. He's had moderate success as a low budget team, and then on the flip side you have Carson Hocevar, which is this is rookie season. Yes, he's provided decent results, but the manner of how he's gotten those results is in question. So I feel kind of feel sorry for Spire Motorsports because I feel like they're between a rock and a hard place right now.
I don't think they're in too hard of a place. I have a feeling out of this that Josh Berry might be there. I think it just makes sense. I have not heard anything on that. I just feel like it makes sense to go back to Chevy for Josh. He has a lot of connections there, and obviously knows the crew chief fairly well at this point.
Josh Berry's already going to Wood Brothers.
Is he
Yeah,
really? I
Josh
missed
Berry's
that.
been announced through
Well,
Wood Brothers. Yep.
ignore me. I don't know what the hell I'm talking
on
about
it.
tonight.
I'm gonna call left field tinfoil hat. This might happen.
Kyle Larson.
Haley Deegan to the number 7.
Yeah, right.
Oh, no way. No way.
Well, the thing is, now,
Hold
like,
on. Here's the thing. You know what that would do though? That would bring a ton of attention to Spire Motorsports.
That has an opportunity. That has sponsorship opportunity for one season. But can you imagine the amount of pressure that would be on Haley Deegan for that season? She would have to perform
like I said,
well
this is a left
and not
field
ruffle
shot.
any
Like,
feathers. I mean, that'd be such a hard situation to go in as Haley Deegan. I love Haley Deegan. I love what she's trying to do and how she's trying to get into the sport. I feel bad for her because she hasn't gotten the opportunities I feel like that she may deserve. And AM Motorsports, we see what happened at Chicago Street Course and everything else. It's another one of those situations where it would be difficult. And could it work? Yes. Anything is possible. But is Haley ready for that kind of pressure?
Well, there's also a lot of rumors that she's going to be switching to a different series.
yeah, I did hear
Discipline?
about that.
She's disciplined. She's been doing ride-alongs in Indy cars.
Yeah.
The reverse Danica Patrick.
Let's hope she's good at Indy.
Honestly, I really think she could do well in NASCAR. It's just trucks are not a good series to prove anything. And she went to AM Motorsports, who, like, she didn't do terrible in, but like they don't have equipment or experience, which Chicago Street Course proved that, to be able to help her get where she needs to be. So, and you know, like Rev was saying last time, is like AM Motorsports needs a driver that's, you know, and Dale Jr. even talked about this. AM Motorsports needs a driver that's going to help them build. Haley Deegan needs a team that's already established that can help her build. So it's so hard to put a rookie into a brand new team or a low budget team like that and expect the team to do good.
Yeah, and it's also hard to ask, though, of a big team to take on that risk of just publicity-wise. Like, it's a big handle of what do you do if she goes to Joe Gibbs Racing, let's just say, in Xfinity and doesn't perform. Now the big ballin' team has to justify why she's not performing, and that's a lot of pressure on them. So on someone that when they can get whoever they want, but they want to take a risk on someone that's unproven. So it's hard both sides.
And I'm not saying like go on a team like Joe Gibbs, just a better established team. Even the middle field team would be a better choice than AM Racing.
I mean, yeah, but when you only have a handful of choices, you got to make the ones you can make. If it's, well, race with this bottom tier Xfinity team or stay with the mid tier truck team.
You know what? Dale Jr., put her in the 88 for one race.
I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't.
You know what? I bet it's possibly in the back of his mind to potentially do that. Because
Dale
he
Jr.
straight up
is
said
a-
that he's... What's up?
Dale Jr. is a smart businessman, though. It's a risk versus reward, and I think that it's on that edge of, yes, it could be really good, but it could also be really bad. And Dale Jr. is smart about that, I feel. With the drivers he puts in his cars, there's got to be a balance. And I think it would take one or two events for Dale to go one way or the other.
Well, I think business-wise, I think it would be a home run kind of decision. Like, it would be a big publicity thing, and she would get into a good vehicle. But it does seem that Dale puts people in his car that if it's someone not an everyday person has heard about, that it's someone that Dale truly believes in 1,000% that they will be successful. And I don't want to say that he doesn't believe that Haley isn't, but maybe he's still in that process of trying to make that decision.
It's difficult any way that you look at it because it's a male-dominated sport. It's a very traditional sport, and so you add a female to the mix, and it just gets very, very complicated. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot. Again, there's a lot that can happen, and it's difficult for teams to want to take a risk because it costs money, and you know that some of these guys are going to be like, oh, well, this is Haley Deegan. I'm going to go and, give her the bumper and see what happens. And it's one of those situations where Haley Deegan has to choose two sides. Does she try to be nice and just let people by and race around them? Or does she decide to get a mean streak and say, hey, I'm going to put the bumper to you. I'm going to put the chrome horn to you and say, guess what? That position's mine and I'm going to take it. It's also that attitude on the racetrack, and we've all seen it, week in and week out, that it's that balance. And how do you balance that mentality as a driver?
Yeah, and it's hard to balance that. And I want to go to what Jared just said in chat of Carson Quaffle probably has the next open seat, and Rev agrees with that, and I think we can all agree to that.
Carson has done very well. Carson Quaffle. Yes, he has done very, very well. And again, Rev, you're right. He has been a very smart driver, and he has Travis, his father, giving him some good input, giving some information. And on top
what
of
does his
that,
father know?
Carson actually has a decent team behind him too. So it's that perfect storm from Carson that has that showing that, hey, he can do this. He has that talent. He has that experience. He has that support behind him, and everything that unfortunately I think Haley Deegan lacks.
I think NASCAR is in really good hands for the next 15 to 20 years. I can definitely, for sure, 90% see Carson Quaffle and Jesse Love being top two drivers in the Cup Series within 10, 15 years. Like, I'm talking a little bit
it's not
down
even
the
going
way.
to take that long.
No, but I'm saying, like, they're going to be, like, the top end guys carrying the series on, battling it out each week. I mean, kind of like a Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson situation. Maybe not to, like, the rivalry extent, but just two of the league's most skilled drivers battling it out and pushing each other. And those two have such a bright future.
I think right now in NASCAR for the Cup Series, we are getting very close to the point where old drivers will be gone. We have a lot of young talent in Xfinity. We have a lot of young talent coming from the street stocks or
Cars Tour.
late models. The Cars Tour going into the Xfinity cars for Junior Motorsports and other teams. I think we are getting to a point where you're gonna lose Kyle Busch, you're gonna lose Denny Hamlin, you're gonna lose
Joey Logano, Brad
Logano,
Keselowski.
I think these older drivers, the door's knocking. I think it's right there. Give it 4 to 5 years. I think we're not gonna have those veterans that we have. But Kyle Larson might be the only one that still might be.
Well, look at the retirements of the past 2 or 3 seasons. Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer, all these other, Jimmy Johnson. We've seen Jimmy Johnson, 7-time championship, ton of guaranteed Hall of Fame, first round. He cannot, for the life of him, get his mind around this car.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Jimmy Johnson.
JJ.
Yeah. Well, he also doesn't have like seat time in it either.
But that's the thing, is this next gen car has really mixed up the order of the guard. It has allowed all these newer drivers to come in and be able to master this car because it's so vastly different than the most of these veterans have driven. Denny Hamlin has had success. Joey Logano, he's won a couple races, but overall Penske,
He's won a championship.
He's won a championship, but he's also he's had his ups and downs. Brad Keselowski, he went and joined forces with Roush Racing, and they're finally getting their feet under him. But how long is that going to last? How long is Brad going to say, "Hey, I think it's time for me to transition from a driver to an owner. We see that with Denny Hamlin with 2311 Racing. Mark Truex Jr. retiring this year. It's across the board, and we have a lot of young talent coming in and saying, "Hey, I think this is my time, my focus, and we're gonna do it."
You know who I'm going to be excited to see, and I want to know how quick he's going to progress up to the Cup Series, and I think he is going to challenge Kyle Larson a lot with the best driver in the world title, and that's Connor Zilisch. That kid is just turned
That's a
18
name I
years
forgot
old,
about.
and this year alone, he has won the 24 hours at Daytona, the 12 hours at Sebring, 3 ARCA races in a row that he has been a part of. And he just turned 18 this week.
And not to mention his impressive performance at Coda in a truck this year.
Exactly. He
If it
is
weren't
going to
for-
be, I think he is going to be the one to challenge Kyle Larson for the best race car driver, hands down. He is a phenom of a race car driver. And I'm excited. He's excited to go Xfinity racing. He said that on his Twitter post as soon as he celebrated his 18th birthday. He's already signed with Trackhouse. He races for Trackhouse. Like he dominated in the TA2 class. Like it was actually kind of funny in the TA2 class. The team that he raced for, he always had a car that they would catch cheating. They had something on the car that was illegal. And they would punish him by starting him in the rear, and he'd still drive through the field and win the race. Like every week. It's like, why are you cheating with this driver? Like he obviously can win a race. Just stop cheating. So the kid is a phenom, and I cannot wait to see what he can do in Xfinity, because ARCA, obviously, he's pretty much got that down pat.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see what he does in Xfinity, and then my question is going to be, how quickly are they going to step him up into Cup?
Well, if it's with Trackhouse, it might not be anytime soon with how backlogged they are in their camp.
But let's also talk about Trackhouse. They brought in SVG. They're bringing in these drivers. It's a whole
They have
experimentation.
Zane Smith.
But they're finding success. And I think that's a huge deal with a lot of these drivers, is the development programs that they are having. Trackhouse, yes, they're not a big name. They're not necessarily a household name. But the moment they came on the scene, they were a force to be reckoned with, and they're not sitting still. They're not sitting stagnant. They're finding this young talent. They're taking the chances on these drivers, and they are hitting gold almost every time.
And you know what team's not doing that? Hendrick Motorsports.
Oh, I was about to say.
They have their talent in Cup right now, and they're the team to beat. I get that. I saw your face, which is why I was like, let me explain first.
Yeah.
What are they doing in Xfinity, though?
I mean, that's
Not
very
really
valid.
anything.
I
All
mean,
they're doing is bringing their Cup drivers down and putting them in an Xfinity car and say, hey, go have fun.
I mean, at the end of the
They're
day,
not-
I consider Junior Motorsports to be their Xfinity program.
Well, they're teamed up with Juniors Motorsports.
Right, that's
I
what I'm
get
saying.
that. But like, it's not a direct feed though. I mean,
No.
it has been, but it's not a direct feed. I mean, Junior Motorsports drivers can still go wherever the heck they want. So, I mean, they're not pretty much guaranteed a seat at Hendrick Motorsports. So, the Trackhouse, though, they've been doing really good at bringing in, talent from. I mean, like Carl said, Shane Van Gisbergen. Mark's already saw the talent in Connor Zilisch. He was in Trackhouse before, like, he even got into a NASCAR. He was in Trackhouse while he was racing Trans Am. So, I mean, Connor Zilisch is going to be one of those drivers like, hey, Zane, because Zane went to Trackhouse, right?
Yes.
So it's
Sure.
like, let's say if Connor Zilisch runs full-time Xfinity next season, you're going to have Shane Van Gisbergen and Connor Zilisch. Who's racing for the seat now at Trackhouse?
Yeah, and
I mean,
I think Hendrick does not want that position right now. To rebuttal your statement of, I agree that they don't have many prospects in their pool right now. I guess if we can draw some similarities to like baseball or whatever, their farm system is very weak, and it's one of the weakest right now. But their team, how they're set up to win championships for the next 5 to 10 years consistently. All
and I
four of
wasn't
them.
saying that. Well, you said it perfectly. Like their recruitment or whatever you just said. Like
Their farm
that's
system.
Not, yeah, their farm system is not good. Whereas Trackhouse is setting up for a future, like very soon future, actually. Because I think when Connor Zilic gets into the Cup Series, Hendricks has got to worry.
Yeah. I mean, another similarity. It's like a first overall draft pick, Connor Zilic. But if your star, you don't have anywhere to put him on the field because you're already backed up, kind of thing. Like there is no room for him, and I think like that's where Hendrick. Yeah, they can sign him, but who are they going to take out for him?
Yeah.
So I want to respond to Rev here. He mentioned in the YouTube chat that the Trackhouse is a program that needs new management, and I think Rev knows. I respect Rev a ton. Anything he says, I'm listening. I'm taking in. But this is one point I actually, unfortunately, Rev, I love you so much, but I'm going to disagree because I think Trackhouse is in the perfect spot for management. We're looking at all these hybrid team owners. We have 2311, Denny Hamlin, partial owner, driver and owner. We have RFK, Brad Keselowski, driver and owner. We have Mark. Why can we not remember Mark's last name?
Mark
But
who?
anyway, Mark, the owner of Trackhouse.
Justin Marks?
Justin Marks. Thank you, Jesus. I can't even remember that. Anyway,
You remembered his last name, just not his first.
apparently. But I think the changing world of NASCAR and motorsports in general, we're finding a lot more teams with owners that have driving experience that are dabbling in management. I think Justin Marks is doing the right thing. He's balancing. He's still racing in Trans Am. He's still doing all the racing, and on top of that, he's trying to run this team. He's doing the sponsorships. He's finding these drivers, and honestly, can you imagine going out and says, "Oh, I found Connor Zilic who won the 24. He's a road racer and he's doing all this, but I'm going to put him in my oval program." Who right now in NASCAR in any three of the disciplines, or four, honestly, with ARCA, would have done that? I think with the transition of the motorsports and NASCAR in general, Justin Marks is the right person you want leading that team. He has the right mentality for it, and he has a decent eye for talent. So I think Trackhouse is, like, I'm going to agree with Richard here. They're on pace. If they put their nose at the grindstone, give it 5 years, Trackhouse is going to have a NASCAR Cup championship.
Do you have something to add to that of who it will be?
But that's the thing about Trackhouse Racing. Their stable, as it were, is so diverse. It's hard to say who it would be. Jesse Love, I don't think they're racing for Trackhouse, but Connor Zilic, SVG. SVG has 3 wins in the Xfinity Series, all on road courses, yes, but is still showing strength in the ovals.
And he finished 4th at Indianapolis. He is starting to understand the ovals a lot more now, and it's great to see. Because, like, I mean, when they go to a road course, it's almost a foot in. Like, it's going to be SVG. He's just, like, it's a stock car. He's used to racing cars like that over in Australia, was a champion over there. Like, it was a great transition.
Well,
and
look at Chicago
oval racing. Oval racing is completely different because it's a different mindset. He's even said it's a completely different mindset. But he's starting to understand the car and what to do on these tracks. And that 4th place finish at Indy was a phenomenal feat.
Let me ask you, where did he finish at Pocono?
I think he was 10th.
Okay, and I'm glad to hear that it was a good finish, because I have always drawn the conclusions and I've always heard the conclusions of Pocono and Indy are the most similar oval tracks to road courses.
Oh, no, he did not finish 10th. He was on track of finishing 10th, and I think he was spun out.
Okay, so he was running well, though.
Yeah.
But basically of the way the braking and the way that the corners work are more similar to a road course. Obviously, you're not shifting and turning right and left as much as like a road course, but they're flatter tracks, they're bigger tracks, and they have bigger braking zones because of that. I don't know if I'm fully in agreement to that, but I just found that an interesting caveat of put him at a cookie cutter mile and a half. Can he do better than 10th?
I mean,
Yes,
we'll find
can.
out.
Yeah.
Like he definitely can. It's just we'll find out. I mean, it's just we're halfway through the season, almost to the playoffs now, and he's starting to finally get the hang of oval tracks. He doesn't have the experience on them, so
That's
it's
very
taken
true.
time. It's taken time to learn them, and he's finally starting to understand them more and figure the car out. So,
And I don't want to be the bad guy hating on SVG because I really enjoy SVG. I just want to be the devil on the shoulder and don't want to have everyone in agreement here.
Devil's advocate there.
Yeah, devil's advocate playing the role that no one wants to play. But
Well, and it's and that's I think SVG's at a disadvantage there because let's look at the NASCAR Cup Series as a whole. These kids grew up running Legends. They ran ARCA. They ran Xfinity. They ran the trucks. They're all on cookie cutter mile and a halves. But SVG has that road experience, and he's shown that. So you can't just expect SVG. He's what, in his mid to late
I think
30s?
he's 35,
Yeah.
34.
To go out there and says, "Oh, I'm going to dominate these oval tracks," because that's not what he is experienced in. It's taken time. I mean, look at Juan Pablo Montoya, Mr. Jet Wrecker there, and how he did. It took him forever. Granted, he did decent in F1. He ran some Indy. But when it came to the ovals in NASCAR, he was at a disadvantage because he was older, and he just the idealism and the whole process of racing an oval. And I think even us as sim racers know that the mentality of running an oval versus a road course is entirely different. So I think if SVG is putting in the results now on ovals, give him a year or two, who knows what he could accomplish.
well, that's fair, and I'm excited to see it, and hopefully it can it work out for him. And Trackhouse has a good problem, but a difficult problem ahead of them of figuring out who's going to fill those seats.
And I'm looking at Rev. He's we're talking about Justin Marks again about Trackhouse management. He's good at development, but not with equipment and management, and that's what counts. And honestly, looking at the team, looking at Justin Marks, he brought in Pitbull as as a partner, bringing in that money. I honestly think Justin Marks is one of those individuals where he knows where he's smart in terms of looking at talent, looking at racing the car and everything else. I honestly think that Justin Marks may not be as involved with the equipment as a lot of people give credit for, because Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnates of the 1800s and 1900s, once said that the reason he was successful is he surrounded himself with people more clever than himself. And I think Justin Marks is on that path. Justin Marks, I believe, knows some of his weaknesses, maybe not all, but some of those weaknesses, and he knows, like, okay, I may not know this aspect of the entire scheme of things, equipment and everything like that. So he's going to go out and hire people that do know that better. And it's another one of those things where, give it another couple of years, it will be the deciding factor on how he does it. And Steven left.
Yeah, I just drew a blank. But yeah, I don't know. Justin Marks has done wonderful things in Trans Am. Like that's a great program they've had. They also had Connor Zillage there as well. So, I mean, you can say he's not good management, the equipment or something like that. But I mean, like, look at Suarez and look at Chastain. Like the only two drivers they have in Cup, and they're both doing not terrible. Like, I mean, Chastain made it to the Final Four last season, so it's not that they're doing bad. I mean, I've not really paid attention to a lot of NASCAR until of late, really. I think I only caught bits and pieces of the Gen 6, and I've pretty much watched ever since the next gen came out. But yeah, like, Carl, I agree with Carl. He's does wonderful at knowing where his weaknesses is and kind of fills in the gaps where he needs to make sure that they've got a smooth sailing piece of machinery. So I hope
Yeah,
die
well,
on this
Rev,
hill. You know
it's going to be interesting to see how we continue, especially and it's the ever changing face of NASCAR. I mean, let's look at the changes in the last 5 years of what NASCAR's done.
Just in the
You
last
used
two
to
or
have.
three.
I mean, you're used to seeing people that are race oval and do oval and everything's oval asphalt, and now look at the diversity of the talent and ownership. But we could beat a dead horse all day, and in the end, the only thing that matters is results, and those will come whether or not they have the ability. And Richard, with the NASCAR news, I know we had Indy. I want to talk with Stephen Gahn. I'm going to kind of direct this. I want to talk about the finish at Indy last week and the controversial yellow flag that was not thrown. What are your opinions on that?
They did the same shit at Pocono with Denny Hamlin winning. And it was Ryan Preece on the backstretch again stopped. So I don't know. I think 100% they should have thrown the caution. He was stopped on the racing surface. Like, I know they want to sit there and try to give every driver the possible, but like overall, I think Kyle Larson still would have won the race. It's just he had the car to beat. He had fresher tires. He had the fuel. Like, it was just the fact that he drove like from 10th all the way to first and just a handful of laps, basically, like making very simple passes. The race overall, like, I'm glad to see the cars back on Indianapolis. Like, it's the Brickyard. I love the Brickyard. These cars did not really put on a good show. And it might not even be the cars. It just could be the drivers. And it's like, this is how we have to race now. Like, this is just how they race. It just seems like the gusto really isn't there for the drivers anymore. It's just kind of like sit there and save the car, wait to the end kind of thing. Because that's what happened. I mean, that's when all the action started, was at the end. And that's when the race got really interesting. So, but no, I think 100% they should have flown a yellow. And even besides that caution, the restart. There's a lot of controversy over the restart. Now, we're going to go two different ways here real fast. A lot of people said that Kyle Larson jumped the start. Information came out that according to telemetry, they both accelerated at the same time. But Blaney started in second and Larson started in first, which gave the illusion that Larson jumped the start. Mm-hmm. Now, if I'm still not mistaken, Blaney's still supposed to be the one to cross the start finish. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know exactly how the restarts are supposed to work like that. But either way, they both restarted at the exact same time. I think the biggest issue a lot of people are having, and even Ryan Blaney's, like, I think agreed to this, is like, no, like, Keselowski, no, they should not move that lane up. Like, that gives them an advantage that they shouldn't have had. A lot of people were calling, it's like NASCAR should have just thrown put the yellow back out and re-racked them, had them choose again. But then a lot of people are trying to, fight the argument saying, oh, what about the guys that are going to run out of fuel? It's like, that's not NASCAR's problem. Mm-mm. You made your bed with trying to wait till the last second on fuel. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not NASCAR's problem. NASCAR wants to be able to, should be there to make sure that the race is fair. And honestly, they either should have done one of two things. Nobody should have pulled up next to Blaney, or they should have re-racked the cars. Because Keselowski, and I don't blame Keselowski, he tried doing the fuel game. And his crew chief was like, nah, we're not going to get it. Come and get fuel. Like, that's a smart choice, because otherwise your car would have been stopped and you would have had to take a push around, and then now you're a lap down.
Or you would have got wrecked.
Or you would have got wrecked. So it was a smart choice on Keselowski. I mean, it was unfortunate because of the situation. But overall, even if Blaney started on the row by himself and got the jump, Larson still would have passed him in a turn or two. Like, that's the cold hard facts. Blaney was not going to run as fast or hard as Larson, because Larson had the fuel to do so. But the yellow should have came out with Preece, flat out. He was not moving.
And that's where I'm gonna go off there. I don't care about the restart. I don't care about any of that. It's that yellow, because we've been racing this car for what, 2 or 3 years now, and we know how low these cars are. The taller rim, the bigger rim, the less sidewall of these tires. When you spin out like that, 9 times out of 10, especially the way Preece wrecked, he's trying to lock it down, not get into the inside wall. They're going to blow tires. And when they blow tires, they're on the blocks. And when they're on the blocks, they can't go. NASCAR has known about this for years. There's no reason that they should have thought, oh, Priest is going to get going again. We'll have no problem. No. You've seen it forever, and with the speeds at Indy, we all know how fast they go through the corners, down the front and back stretch. NASCAR should have thrown that caution. NASCAR should have gone for another overtime finish. I do not in any part agree with how NASCAR handled that situation.
I don't either. And like whoever the guy was that was they interviewed about that situation, he was like, "Oh, we didn't know that he had all 4 tires blown until, they were coming around turn 1 basically." And it's like, how did you not know? Everybody at home before they were even coming out of turn 4 saw Priest had all 4 tires down and wasn't moving. So how is it people at home can see that, and you, who has every single possible camera on the track available to you right here, didn't see that? And I guarantee you there's like 4 cameras looking at this car going, is he going to move? Is he going to move? Is he going to move? Like,
we know he's not going to move.
BS
We've seen
excuse.
it week in and week out. They spin out, they pop the tire, they're stuck because they're lower to the ground now. There is no reason. I mean, conspiracy theorists abound, whatever, but there's no reason they shouldn't have thrown that caution. I don't understand the reasoning behind it. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
And I can't jump in on the whole conspiracy theory thing about like, oh, they gave the Golden Boy the win, because it's like, you have Team Penske in P2 at Penske's track. And
exactly.
Last year's Indy 500, that was a conspiracy because of how they threw the cautions with the wrecks and whatnot that gave Penske the Indy 500 win. So that's why I'm not going to call the conspiracy theory here, because it's the return to the Brickyard. And yeah, it's Hendricks Motorsports or whatnot, but like you have Penske in P2.
It's NASCAR's Golden
track.
Boy.
So it's either I can't really call a conspiracy on that one, saying given the Golden Boy his crown jewel win. It's especially, I mean, the only way I could like back that up is like, oh, but he did the double and he just got an unfortunate couldn't jump in his car at Charlotte thing, and even then that's a stretch.
Yeah,
but that's the only reason I'm not jumping on that conspiracy theory Golden Boy thing is because Penske was P2 and it's his track. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I don't have much to say on that. I can keep my teeth on my tongue.
You're boring.
I can be boring, but nah. I mean,
Adam, he is the Golden Boy.
When it comes to anything NASCAR, and I'm like going even back to the Coke 600. We were told attending that race that they would try to restart the race, or that they were going to restart the race whenever the rain came, and because Kyle Larson had just came. I am fully convinced NASCAR even tried to restart that race because they wanted Kyle Larson to race in it. Because they wanted him to participate, to say that he did the double. I'm not mad that Denny got smoked. I truly think there is a slight bias, and there's nothing wrong with that. Biases exist in every form, every facet, no matter what you say. Even if you say it does not exist, there is a slight bias NASCAR has towards Kyle Larson because of the media attention he gains and he attracts into the people that he reaches out to. Whether that's right or wrong, that's for you to decide. But I do think NASCAR does favor him on a lot of calls and a lot of certain instances.
I can agree with you there. And here's going to be my thought on that is, for a competitive stance, that is garbage. Like, that ruins all these other teams that are putting money into it, all these other drivers that are trying to, do their best also. I think for a competitive stance, that is garbage. But NASCAR, being the money issue they're having, as I assume, you're going to try and give your Golden Boy the best opportunities possible because he's bringing in the viewers, he's bringing in your money, and he's bringing in the talk. So it's, on a business aspect, it's a smart move for money, but if they keep doing it, they're going to start losing all their competitive teams and drivers, and then they're going to be in a bigger issue than where they are right now. So it's hard to really say, but I do agree. I know a lot of people sit there and say Hendricks has got a huge bias with NASCAR or whatnot, but I mean, it
Hendrick
is
makes
what it is.
NASCAR a lot of money.
I mean, they do. They really do. So it's tough to look at that and not see it. I mean, it's there. You can definitely tell, but it's hard to prove for factual.
Here's my aluminum, my tinfoil hat.
Your
here.
Illuminati.
But it's one of those situations. It is what it is, and whether or not Hendrick has pull with NASCAR, it really at this point. I mean, on top of that, okay, if we're gonna go, let's go into another Illuminati. Thank you very much.
Illuminati hat.
But yeah, I think Adam is right. Is their officiating these past couple of years has been extremely inconsistent. It's been very kind of like they have a dartboard and they're going to throw a dart and says, are we going to throw a yellow or are we not going to throw a yellow? Are we going to let them go and race? Are we going to do this race? Or are we going to call it? Like, you can say what it is, but it's unfortunately we're not privy to a lot of those decision-making moments and stuff like that. So it's, what are you going to do?
Sit here and watch a race and hope for a good one.
Exactly.
I mean, what else can you do? The only way we can protest is nobody showed up to races and we didn't watch them on Sunday, and that's not going to happen.
I love what Sam just said. If Hendrick is winning and other drivers are fist fighting, NASCAR is making money. That is the truest statement in NASCAR.
That is true.
And I have not thought of that, but that is so true.
Systemic
It sells to race fans and it sells to casual people.
Oh man.
Humidity. I don't want to hear that again. Why wasn't humidity a factor for these people that live in North Carolina? NASCAR is based out of Charlotte. They know how humid it gets and how long it takes to dry asphalt. And they know how humid it is outside, and we felt it ourselves. And they couldn't tell me an hour and 15 minutes beforehand that there might be a chance. No, they said we are going to resume this race. And they said we're going to resume this race because Kyle Larson is here and he's our golden boy and he's going to run this race.
Oh man,
I'm still so butthurt about that whole situation. And I'm sure you are too, Adam, because obviously you wanted to see him race, but he gets the benefit of the doubt.
That's fine. I think Adam's going to be sweating when Connor Zilic enters the chat.
Wait until Denny Hamlin enters the chat.
oh jeez,
Dude, I can't wait for Larson to finally just buckle his pants and be like, you know what, forget you, Larson, or Denny, and spins Denny out.
give it time. We're getting there. We are getting there.
Funny. I really wouldn't be too butthurt.
Oh no.
Not me. Adam would be the one butthurt. That's very true.
My butt is hurt as well.
Oh man.
Oh man. But anyway, I got not much else, guys. It was, I don't know. I think the Indy, it was good to see the cars back on Brickyard. It was very, very boring race until the last 20 laps. But I mean, again, I think that's pretty much just how NASCAR has been going lately anyway with these new cars. It's just how they are.
Yeah.
And drivers also. I think the drivers are just kind of I think the teams are telling the drivers, save your car because we have to spend $40 million on charters.
Yeah. Well,
so okay, I think we're done with NASCAR. I do want to put out, and I think this will resonate with Richard a little more than you, Steven. No offense, but
please.
3 or so hours ago, Chevrolet revealed their new Corvette ZR1.
La-di-da.
Oh, really?
Twin turbo, 5.5 liter small block, mid rear drive, outputting 1,064 horsepower at 838 foot-pounds of torque, sub 10-second quarter mile, and comfortably over 215 miles an hour. Yeah, I love your look, Richard, but guess what? I am here for it. Chevrolet, I'm excited. I'm excited for this new Corvette. Turbos, say what you want, turbos are the future. Better than EVs,
Yes.
but turbos are there, and they're here to stay. And guess what?
I know. I like the naturally aspirated motors. That's just me, though. I mean, turbos have their place. Don't get me wrong. Turbos are on your Porsches, or on, other European and Japanese cars.
Have you driven a
Putting it-
turbo, Richard? I have the question. Have you
Yes.
driven a turbo?
Yes.
And have you felt that when that turbo kicks in, your gut gets sucked to the back of the seat? You cannot tell me you don't like that feeling.
Once the turbo kicks in, but when you're on a naturally aspirated muscle car with a V8, you feel that as soon as you put your foot on the gas.
Well, the curve, the power curve is so much. I'm sorry. I'm a turbo fanboy. Okay,
I think
will
I side
admit.
with you, Carl.
I will admit that
I agree,
was-
Rev. Supercharged is way better than.
Well, okay.
I'm gonna argue this point, but okay, we're gonna have the Carl's Corner here for a couple of minutes, and here's the thing. One thing is the turbos they don't require power to run. Superchargers, you need to have them hooked up. They need to be part of your belt system. So yes, the turbo does take a minute to spool, but the supercharger requires power to create power. So it's one of those things where it doesn't quite balance out. Now, with a small block V8 putting out 1,000 freaking horsepower, you cannot. It doesn't matter, supercharged, whatever. You cannot balk at the fact that you have a 5.5 liter V8 twin turbo putting out 1,000 horsepower, and it goes. But yes, Rev, you're right. You need the exhaust system, but that's the point of a mid-engine rear drive car. You can put it out the back and not have any issues. You can put it behind the rear axle and everything else and not have the issues of a front engine, say, and run that towards the back. I'm all here for it.
Can we pull
It's
TikTok from the BRB Racing League, where it's just like,
Oh.
I absolutely love a blow off. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love a blow off. And honestly, when I was younger, I was all about there's no replacement for displacement. And I think Rev knows what I'm talking about there. That's an old saying. And I always said,
You're calling Rev
big
old?
block, oh man, yeah. See, too fast to Carl says that. Yeah, exactly. But it's the change, and it's one of those situations where love you, Rev. But it's one of those situations where I think turbos on a mid-engine rear car is the way to go. You don't get you don't have to worry about as many of those exhaust routing problems. You don't have well, Adam, you're doing it wrong. So I'll give you some routing to show you how it's done. But it's one of those situations where it's I love it just because Chevrolet's trying something new. They're taking a small block, putting big power, and I was all for it. Even Hyundai. I'm gonna go back to my years at Hyundai. A small 2.0 cylinder. Four-cylinder engine making over 300 horsepower just from the factory 2, no cams, nothing like that, with the turbo. You cannot tell me you wouldn't want to drive that thing.
I mean,
so,
compared to a
I mean,
Corvette.
I don't know. I'm still stuck in the whole, like, I miss the muscle car Corvette. I need to get over that feel, that want, because now the Corvette has moved on to the supercar stage. That still doesn't mean that I miss muscle car Corvettes. It's the staple that made Chevy what it was. It's always been the muscle car, like the muscle car. You think of a muscle car, you think Corvettes and Mustangs. Like, that's just how it is. Anyways, but I mean, I'd be curious to see how that carries over into IMSA. And Carl left, the person that I was referring
The person
back to,
who understands
mother.
IMSA.
Exactly. Oh my god. But I mean,
Don't worry, I got you.
I'm not against it. It hurts because again, I like the naturally aspirated sound of the Vets. But that's just me. The turbo will be pretty cool. I mean, I'm never going to drive one, so what's it matter? Like,
Oh,
I'm never going to
oh, yeah.
own a Corvette.
I just pulled up this this article, and it talks about where is it? Oh, the average buyer of the Corvette ZR1 and Z06 has a household income of $311,000. Sorry to rub that in, but
Yeah. So, I mean, heck, if I start my sim rig rental business, who knows? Maybe I might own a Corvette. Who knows?
Yeah. Oof.
So,
Good luck. 300,000 is a lot.
it is. It is. It is. So, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm never gonna own one. It's just kind of like if I was able to go out and buy one, I'd be like, oh, this was actually really cool. But again, from a distance, again, I'm still your Corvette muscle car fan, and it's just to me, muscle cars deserve superchargers, turbos go on your imports. That's just how I am, though. But
You're a
I
very
mean,
old school American.
I am. I am. But
and
I will say though, there is one muscle car out there that was twin turbo. That was the Corvette killer back in the '80s. Do you know what car I'm talking about?
I do not.
Rev, do you know what car I'm talking about?
I was
I'm gonna
not
give a little
alive
break
then.
here. A Buick GNX.
Buick.
The Buick 1985 Buick GNX was the Corvette killer back in the 80s. It was a inline six twin turbo. Basically, it was kind of like a family sedan, but it wasn't
A
four
twin
doors.
turbo in the 80s?
Yes.
That sounds
Like
sketchy.
it actually, that car itself actually gave the real blow off vents. You know the people that get the stick on blow off vents that put in their fenders.
Yeah.
It actually had real blow off vents on the front fenders with a warning sticker under it saying "caution, hot air." So the Buick GNX was a beast, like Rev was saying. It was a monster of a. It was the only car I believe that could beat the Corvette in a quarter mile.
So what's
In the
the negative stigma regarding, the traditional muscle car lovers and turbos then? Was the GNX not well received because of the turbos, or
Because
was
it wasn't
seen as badass?
necessarily wasn't considered a muscle car.
Well, and the thing is with
And it hit an inline
and-
six, not a V8.
and that's and
That's
there's the thing is with turbos and let's say your classic muscle cars, you have a 496, you have a 502, you have all of these big cars, you hit the go pedal, it goes. There's no waiting for it. You're spinning tires, you're smelling burnt rubber, and you're gone. Okay. Turbos, yes, there is a lag, turbo lag, but modern technology has really reduced that. And then recirculating systems, you don't have to worry about when you get off the throttle and get on the throttle that there's even more lag. So with recirculating systems, it's constantly pumping that back into. So if you do, let's say we're running a road course, say Spa or Le Mans or anything like that, the moment you get off the throttle, and if you need to get on the throttle during a corner, it's there again. The technology from the 80s and 90s to today has just been phenomenal in terms of how airflow. It's all about airflow, and if you think about it, how the engine operates with the extra air. And Adam's right. The 60s through the 90s. I mean, the 90s is exactly where they were starting to mess with their turbos, actually. So, crazy enough story. One of the funnest cars I've ever owned was a Hyundai Scoop. It had a 1.6 liter straight four, and it was a blast to drive. I was actually able to get about 16 pounds of pressure on a stock motor. And it's one of those situations where turbos take a little more finesse. You don't just bolt up a turbo and say go. There's tuning involved. You got to make sure you have the right back pressure. You have to make sure that the blow off pressure is right. You have to make sure it was everything tuned. Whereas a supercharger, as long as you know the internal can take it, you bolt it up, you put it on the belt, and you go. And it's again part of that changing of the guard. Everything's kind of transitioned. Look at any major motorsport in the world. You have F1. They're a hybrid turbo system. You have IMSA. They're the Cadillac. That's a normally aspirated, but a lot of those engines are turbo. The GT3s. A lot of those engines are turbo. Like you mentioned earlier, Richard, the Porsche.
Now, now that we circled back to this, Carl, I meant to ask you about the Corvette. How is this going to play in now to the sports car championships?
Well, okay. Not too long ago, and I can't say too long ago, about 10, 15 years ago, I was told a story when I was in tech that the Corvettes, when they came out on the scene for the international motorsports, okay, It was an issue of they actually had to detune their engines to be compatible and to be in compliance with regulations. This could be the very same situation. And another quote I like to throw out, which I was told by an instructor, is there is speed of and speed to. If your top speed is 250 miles an hour, cool. But if it takes you 30 seconds to get there, I don't think that beats a car that tops out at 190, but takes 10 seconds to get there. And so I think this definitely puts the pressure on other manufacturers saying, hey, we brought this small block with twin turbos and look what it can do. Good luck keeping up. Now, of course, there's more to it than going fast. You have to turn left, you have to turn right, you have to brake and slow up.
What are brakes?
Exactly. What are brakes? You don't want to get that aero tight situation. So, but on top of that, an aero weight balance. There's a lot to it, but I think with this coming out, it could be very, very interesting to see how Corvette and GM in general, because obviously GM has Cadillac, has Corvette. How will this change not only the GT3 status, but also the GTP of the Cadillac? This could be a catalyst of a whole bunch of stuff coming in the next couple of years.
Hey, that'll be exciting to see. We can keep diving into this all we want, but I know I have to get going.
Yeah, I wish I had more to input there, but I pulled up a picture of the GNX motor. I just wanted to. This thing looks ridiculous. I have never in my life seen something that looks like this, so I just thought that was interesting and wanted to share.
So it looks like that the intercooler is lower and sucking air below the intake, so that's where that came through.
Yeah, it is.
But
odd.
And Rev, man, Rev, I've never been at odds with you as much as we have tonight. But yes, mid-90s, naturally aspirated, cool. But again, we're talking about fuel mileage. We're talking about fuel economy.
Save the planet.
You could take a 496, put 1,000 horsepower on it, no problem. Where the fuel mileage, though, you're going maybe a mile a gallon, 2 miles a gallon. I mean, it's not there. Whereas you have a small block putting out that power, but still can get 13, 14, 15 miles a gallon. It's just a changed world, and we are before our eyes. We are watching the transition. So it's, man, Rev, I would love to hang out with you over lunch, some country fried steak and eggs, and or biscuits and gravy. And I would love to talk about this, but yeah, exactly. But man, there's just so much happening in motorsports right now. It's unbelievable.
Come to Daytona, we'll have shit on shingles with Rev.
Oh, trust me, I want to so bad.
I said, come to Daytona, we'll have shit on shingles with Rev.
What is that?
Shit on shingles?
You never heard of shit on shingles?
Shit beef gravy on toast.
I like my toast buttered. Add a fried egg on top of that.
I'm a city boy. No idea what that is.
Shit beef gravy on toast. Just look it up. It's good.
Shit beef gravy.
It's called shit on shingles.
Huh. Okay. Sounds good. But all right. Well, we can get you to bed, Richard, since it's past your sleeping time.
I gotta help the wife get an elliptical out of the truck.
Oh, Jesus. Good luck with that, and hope you're still alive next week. But
I know we're going camping this weekend, so who knows?
Oof. Yeah.
I'm not gonna have any video
don't
games
see a
at my
bear.
fingertips.
That's tough. Where are you going camping?
Just Jekyll Island.
Okay. Well, that'll be a good time.
It's by the beach.
It's not much of camping.
No, it's not.
But,
and I'm in a camper. It's not really a
Oh, yeah. You're glamping.
Yeah, we're going to a campground with RV spots,
A
man.
glamping beach vacation.
Yeah, that's fine by me. I don't care. I'm too old to go regular camping anymore.
Sounds kind of nice.
If I was hiking, it'd be a different story.
Well, that will wrap us up. Make sure you tune in on Tuesday. Tuesday is the 30th, July 30th at 9 p.m. Eastern on Extreme Sim TV at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to watch the Sealmaster 200 at Iowa.
Good job.
It'll be a very entertaining race.
Here
And
we go.
you'll see all three of us on track. Carl, Richard, thank you for your time. Rev, Adam, Gavin. I know Jared was in here earlier. Sam, whoever's in chat still, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow
Rev
us
and
on
Adam.
Facebook. Thank you to our sponsors, Sundance Pizza, Butt Kicker, Ideal Lease, and Ascendance Trucks. We appreciate y'all, and we'll catch y'all next week.
Gavin. Oh, we got to do our sign off?
Yep, we got to do a sign off.
We got to do the sign off. All right, Carl, start it off.
All right, ready? Buckle it up.
Buckle it up,
Buckle it up.
or
Or
you'll
you'll
die.
die.
Brr, brr.